Hello, good morning. Last week's video we were up on my favourite sort of locations up in Dartmoor National Park, and we were experimenting with using just the 70 to 300 telephoto lens. And the reason for that was because I wanted to inject something different into my photography. I wanted to find a new way of working and find a way of introducing some variation to what I was doing. And all that's really good, but what you can't beat, what I always find is really a fantastic thing to do, is to actually get out and try new locations. So I'm very fortunate in the area that I live. I live in the southwest of England, and we've got a fantastic moorland, but woodlands, and also we've got a fantastic coastland. And to be honest, I probably don't find that I spend enough time down by the coast, and that's because I don't live miles and miles away from the beaches, but I live a little bit more inland than I do coastal, shall we say. So today I've come down to a local beach. Now I've arrived just a little bit after sunrise because I did have a little bit more of a drive to get here, but there are still some fantastic opportunities. I've got rocks and things all around me. I've got rock pools, and apart from the odd walker with their dogs, I've virtually got the place to itself. So let's have a walk through and see what we can find. There must be something here which captures my eye. There's lots to look at the moment, but I just can't decide where to start. So I think that's the first order of the day. Looking around, I also think it's going to be a day when I look at maybe some of the less large landscapes. I'm interested in some of the shapes of the pools that the retreating tides left behind. So yeah, I think we're going to go in for the close-up and the detail things. Right, let's crack on and have a look. Well, I was right. The first image that I'm taking is very much to do with nothing but sand patterns. Looks like Ruby's had a bit of a patter through here and just ruined part of them. But we can deal with that. So I'm getting in nice and close on these lines in the sand which are drawing your eye into some rocks I'm looking at. I think it works reasonably well. I don't know, it's one of those pictures where you tend to have to get one in the bag just to start your day off. The sun's coming up quite strong now actually, and it's going to be a little bit contrasty. It's going to be a completely different day than I expected. So we might try quite a few of these ideas where we've got lots of shadows going across the sand created by the folds in them. That kind of sort of appear when the tide retreats. So let's get this first picture done. Explain where it is. It's very shallow depth of field because we're shooting close into the camera. So it's going to be very easy to expose for this. In fact, I'm probably not even going to bracket. We're just going to set it at about f11 for a second. What I'm going to have to do though is I'm going to have to focus stack just to be on the safe side. There's no harm. So we'll take one picture to begin with, focusing about a third into the frame. Autofocus on, there we are. First picture, 2-second timer, ISO 100, quarter of a second, f11. There we go, first picture of the day in the bag. What I'm going to do is that focus stacked version, just so that if it does need it, I've got it. You might have noticed that I put my hand over the front of the lens. I do that for one very simple reason. If I do that, I actually know then where my focus stacked images start. So I'm using the live view, by the way. I just focus on the bottom of the frame, I'm going to take one picture there. We're going to go up roughly to the middle of the frame. Take another one there. We're going to go up. Take one on that rock. One on the far background for luck. Hand in front of the frame. That's my last picture, just marks them. Okay, have a look at those, see what you think. I'm going to find my next composition. Probably been about 15-20 years since I've visited this beach, and I certainly haven't visited it as a photographer. And it's funny, isn't it, you look at things and you look at locations with a different perspective and a different pair of eyes, and you're looking for something different when you come out with the view of taking photographs. And what's really quite interesting is that I don't actually remember it at all now that I'm back. So it's really good. It is like visiting a new location. So if you haven't been somewhere for a long time, but you know, I'd urge you to go out and sort of have a look at those different locations and consider whether or not it's something for you. I'm kind of struggling to walk around. The beach itself is pristine sand, absolutely pristine. There's you know, the tide's retreated, and it's left us with this really beautiful, smooth sand to work from, which is absolutely fantastic. But of course the problem is that you never quite know what you're going to stand on. You're always running the risk of standing on your composition, and I'm trying to sort of walk in such a way that I don't do that. But of course the problem is I've got Ruby with me, and Ruby doesn't understand the concept of pristine sand. It's just something to skip about on. So no doubt she's going to destroy a few of my potential subjects this morning. Anyway, I think I've spotted my next one, so I'm going to make my way towards it, and with a bit of luck we'll be able to see if we can find something else to look at. I love all these rocks behind me with the water around them. They got some real great sort of reflections cast across the top of them with the pristine sand. Problem is, it's just trying to arrange the elements in the frame so that you get a nice composition out of it. And it's strange, actually, I've just turned around and looking the other way, I think I've just found kind of what I'm looking for. But it sort of leads your eye into the scene from the other direction, so it's a little bit different. You can see that Ruby's sort of pattering around in the background. The trouble is, as soon as I find a bit of sand that I actually like, she patters into it and destroys it. So hopefully the bit in front of me is exactly what I want it to be. I think she just went in a bit deeper than she thought she was going to go. Right, okay, so let's see what we can find. I think last week's video of going out and using my 70-300 lens must have had more profound effect on my photography than I realised, because here it is back on again. And it's great because I found a good spot where I can actually use the power of this telephoto and zoom in on some of the detail. I found a rock. In fact, let me put a video up on the screen so you can actually see what it looks like. So I found a rock which is sort of set into one of these rock pools, and there's a nice curve, and sort of like a double curve on the beach really, that's making really a nice sort of shape. And I just like the patterns on the sand and the way that the lighting is on it. The lighting's actually quite changeable today. Although that creates a challenge for landscape photography. It also creates some of its best opportunities, because when that light is changing, you have to really think on your feet a little bit. But you also get opportunities of shooting in sunlight, in shade, in shadow, all with the same sort of setups and the same different ways of doing it. And you can explore the same scene, whether it's in low contrast or high contrast, or when the colours are a bit more saturated, and get some different ideas. And that's what I'm doing here. In fact, the light's just dulled a bit again, so I'm just going to take another set of photographs exactly where I am. And what I've also been doing, I've also had to sort of do a little bit of focus stacking as well. And I've been doing that same as I normally do, just working my way up the frame with about 3 or 4 different photographs, and that allows me to capture what I want. So I'm just going to keep taking a few photographs as things change and as things go through. I'm a little bit concerned about the composition because it's very heavy in terms of tonal range and colour on the left hand side. So on the left hand side we've got this very dark rock, and obviously on the right hand side we've got the sand. So I'm trying to compose it so I don't know, I'm hoping it's going to work. I'm hoping it's going to work, and I won't know until I actually put it up on the screen and look at it. Regardless of what I feel about the image, I will put it up and show you, and maybe you can put your own comments below and actually tell me what you think about it, whether it works or whether it doesn't work, to see how it comes across. Right, I want to take a few more as the light's changing, then it's time for a cup of coffee and maybe another composition before we sort of head back to the car and back to civilization. Okay, see you in a minute. Ruby really enjoyed her run across the beach. Well, we found a sheltered spot somewhere just to sit down, have a cup of coffee and something to eat and drink. Ruby's just had some food, drink of water as well, just enjoying my coffee. On the way from the short walk from the car park down to the actual beach this morning, I had to pass through some sand dunes, and I must admit I did know there were sand dunes here because I looked on the map, and the picture that I'm going to take is probably really a bit of a cliche, to be honest. People have, certainly locally, because of where I live, there have always been lots of photographs of sand dunes and grasses and wooden fences going off into the distance and the texture of the sand and everything. And although it's a cliche, it's not actually a picture that I've got in my portfolio. And I suppose in some ways I've avoided it because, one, I don't come to the beach that often, which seems crazy considering where I live, but also because I've seen so many of them. But this year I've been making a real, this year and the end of last year, I've been making a real effort to kind of ignore those facts and that other people have already photographed it. And is there any point? Because the simple fact is, of course there's a point. All the photographs that I've taken this morning have already been taken in similar styles by somebody else, so why shouldn't I take this one? So I'm going to finish up my coffee and go and take my final photograph of the day. So I think I've actually found the exact piece of fence which I need to photograph just behind me. The question is, of course, is whether or not I can do it, because it's actually starting to spit with rain and there's some fantastic dark clouds behind me, but I'm not quite sure how wet we're going to get setting this up and how good the video of it's going to go. It's also quite busy here as well. There's lots of people walking backwards and forwards, and that always makes it difficult for me as a photographer who's trying to vlog at the same time. I don't talk well when there's lots of people walking around and I'm trying to do this with camera stuff. It's also a big distraction for Ruby because she keeps wanting to run off and play with the other dogs. So excuse me if this is going to be a little bit rushed, this part of the video, but I'm going to set this picture up really quickly because I've got to capture this before I lose this light. So bear with me for a few seconds. So, I don't know if you can tell or not, but I wasn't exactly wrong. The weather has come in. It's actually started raining, and I think I've just managed to get the photographs quickly. I'm a bit sorry that I couldn't sort of take the time to blog it and show you exactly what I was doing, what I was setting up. But I will put a little bit of video up on the screens, maybe a raw file from when I took the pictures originally, so I can explain to you what I'm trying to do. So I've got a fairly low viewpoint and I'm set down from this fence and I'm looking up to it. So this is all about looking up into the distance and looking up, especially where I've got this sort of dark, foreboding sky in the background, which is coming over really well. So I'm hoping that that's going to come out, and I may even do this as a black and white picture and use that contrasty lighting and that dark moody sky in the background to set these fence posts off. I'm going to decide finally what I'm going to do when I get into the editing stage. It might even be that I do a colour picture, because my original concept when I was coming out today and when I saw this on the way down to the beach was that on the way back I would do something and I would do it fairly sort of desaturated colours and soft tones and colours and try and capture that against a pale sort of sky. But weather conditions have thrown a little bit of curveball, and I haven't exactly got the conditions that I thought I was going to be getting. But having said that, I've got different conditions, equally good conditions, and conditions that I've had to adapt to. So hopefully that's going to come over in the finished image. So I'm getting a little bit wet, so I'm actually going to pack up now, get back to the car, dry this gear off, and make our way back home, and then I can go and edit this video, edit these images for you. So I hope you've enjoyed today's photograph. I really do hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed looking at the last image that I'm going to put up. All I want to say is obviously that if you have enjoyed it, then take the time to sort of send me some comments, maybe like the video, subscribe if you want to see some more. I used that 70-300 zoom lens today. Look at last week's video because it was all about using one focal length and using a long telephoto lens for landscape photography, so it's worth checking that out. Until next time, get out, enjoy your photography, and I'll see you in the next video.